Lesson 1. The New World. The Pilgrims were not the first English people to settle in North America. In today's read aloud, you're going to learn about some of the other places in North America where the English settled, both before and after the Pilgrims' arrival. Listen to find out about other English settlements in North America. This is the North American continent where we live today. The part colored red is the United States. Many hundreds of years ago, life in North America was very different than it is today. What do you see in this illustration? The first people who lived in North America are known as Native Americans. The Native Americans lived in groups called tribes in different regions of North America. There were no stores like we have now, so they had to find or make most things they needed to survive, whether it was food to eat, clothing to wear, or a house in which to live. Hundreds of years later, a European explorer by the name of Christopher Columbus sailed and reached North America, but that was not where he had planned to go. Do you remember what Columbus was looking for when he first set sail from Europe? Columbus set sail from Europe hoping to find a quicker way to reach India and China, where spices, gold, and other riches were plentiful. But in 1492, when Columbus actually reached land after he sailed the ocean blue, he and his crew did not arrive in India or China. They landed instead in North America, where they met the native people who lived there. Who are these native people? Why did Columbus call the people Indians? After Columbus, sailors from different countries in Europe traveled to North America. Portugal, the Dutch Republic, now the Netherlands, Spain, France, and England all sent explorers to North America, continuing to hope to find riches and goods that they might bring back to trade and sell in Europe. Do you see North America and Europe on the map? North America is in blue, and Europe is in orange. Everyone was interested in this new world. European explorers called North America the New World because it was new to them, as compared to the countries of Europe from which they came. Do you recognize the event that is taking place in this picture? It's Thanksgiving. The English did not want to just visit the Americas. They were interested in starting settlements in order to live there. When people start settlements, they move to a new place to live. They wanted a place for their people to spread out from their small island country, England, across the Atlantic Ocean. You probably remember the English Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock in the 1600s, about 100 years after Columbus. The Pilgrims had great difficulty adjusting to their life in the New World because it was very different from the city life they knew in Europe. The Native Americans that the Pilgrims met helped them survive, especially during that first year. The Pilgrims were not the only English people to start settlements in North America. In fact, before the Pilgrims ever arrived at Plymouth, other English men and women had settled in 2 other places. The first English colony was on Roanoke Island, followed by a colony at Jamestown. A colony is a place that is ruled by a faraway country. So the English men and women who moved to and settled Roanoke Island and Jamestown did not make their own rules or laws. The English king and government ruled the colonies. A government is a group of people who make decisions and laws for the people they represent. The first child born in North America to English parents was born on Roanoke Island. Her name was Virginia Dare. The people in the image are English settlers watching the baptism of Virginia Dare. A baptism is a Christian religious ceremony. We don't really know what happened to Virginia Dare or the other English settlers living on Roanoke Island because they mysteriously disappeared several years after they arrived. For this reason, Roanoke Colony is often called the Lost Colony. The colony was not really lost, but the colonists were never seen again. Some people think life was so difficult on Roanoke Island that the colonists left their settlement and went to live with some of the Native American tribes in the area. Some people think the Roanoke Island settlers may have gone to live with the Native Americans since they may have run out of food. It was another 20 years after the Roanoke colony before the English tried to settle again in North America. When they did, 100 English men and boys sailed up a river from the Atlantic Ocean and named the river James in honor of the King of England. The settlement they founded was called Jamestown. Like the other English settlers, the people who came to Jamestown met the Native Americans who were already living in this area. The English wanted to trade goods with them and were especially interested in acquiring the Native Americans' beaver and deer skins to send back to England, where they were able to sell them for a high price. As time passed, more and more settlers from Great Britain arrived in North America. At this time, many years after the first English colonists arrived in North America, the country they came from was now known as Great Britain, or Britain. All up and down the east coast of North America, they formed more colonies where they started new lives for themselves. By 1732, there were 13 British colonies in North America. These are the colonies in North America: Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. The people living in the 13 colonies in North America were ruled and controlled by the king and government of Britain. How many British colonies were settled in North America? The British did not accomplish the hard work of setting up colonies all by themselves. They especially needed lots of helpers to clear and farm the land. First, they encouraged indentured servants to come work in America. These indentured servants had to work only for the English colonists for a certain agreed-upon number of years, without pay. After that time, they were free to live and work where they wanted, and to be paid for that work. As the British colonies grew, more and more workers were needed. Before long, European ships brought enslaved people, taken from the continent of Africa, to work in America. These enslaved people were forced to come to North America, where they did not share the freedoms enjoyed by the colonists. Freedoms are rights or liberties. They could not leave their farms without permission, and it was against the law for anyone to teach them to read or write. As the colonists settled in the colonies, more changes were to come. Who were the very first people known to live in North America? English pilgrims settled Plymouth Colony. Name 2 other English colonies in North America that were settled before the Pilgrims arrived in Plymouth. Why is Roanoke Island called the Lost Colony? In what ways were indentured servants and enslaved people similar? In what ways were they different? Who governed and ruled the 13 British colonies? The King of Great Britain or the people who lived in the colonies? If you could travel back in time, would you rather be one of the Native Americans who first lived in North America, one of the sailors who traveled with Columbus, or one of the English colonists? What do you think you might like and dislike about living in that time? In the read aloud you heard, the English were interested in starting settlements in order to live there. Say the word settlements with me. Settlements. Settlements are places where people move to live. The English set up settlements up and down the east coast of North America. What settlements have you learned about so far? Think about places that groups of people settled in, not only in North America, but around the world. Try to use the word settlements when you tell about it. What's the word we've been talking about? I am going to name several places. If I say a place that you think can have or did have settlements, say settlements. If the place I named cannot have settlements, say no settlements. The moon. Massachusetts. The sun. Virginia. Under the sea. Utah.